What's happening, guys? This is Adi from Gate 7 International, back with another deep dive. We are in the home stretch, boys and girls. The transfer window at the time of recording is over for most clubs in Europe, for most leagues. Of course, as we know, the transfer window is still open for Greece, it's still open for Turkey, so business can still be done. We can still buy players from clubs. We just cannot sell them to a lot of these leagues, minus Turkey, of course. So we are excited to talk about the man of the hour for this deep dive, our new Norwegian winger, Ola Solbakken. Very exciting player that we're going to be talking about. But before we get started, guys, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. These engagements help us find more red and white fans. The more that you guys engage, whether it's liking, commenting, subscribing, the more people that can find us, the bigger this community grows. And don't forget, if you want to support us on Patreon, you can always support us through YouTube. But if you want to get something for your donation, check us out on Patreon. You can get early access to these deep dives. You also can get special interviews that are not available outside of the realm of Olympiacos. So check us out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/gate7international. Now let's get to it, boys and girls. Let's get to talking about our new winger, Ola Solbakken, 24-year-old Norwegian right winger. He turns 25 next week. So at the time of recording, less than a week away from his birthday. Well, he will turn 25. And he is a left footed inverted right winger. So he's going to be cutting inside with his left foot on that right side. That's where he plays primarily. But he does play on the left. For the Norwegian national team, he does play on the left very frequently, and he's also played as a second striker. He played as a second striker not just for the Norwegian national team, but also when he played for Bodo Glimt in Norway. So he can play almost anywhere in the front three on the field. Very unique. He's coming in at a pretty big 6'1", 186 centimeters, so pretty tall, 79 kilogram, 174 pounds. So solid build, very Scandinavian, as it were. Um, Norwegian product, purchased eventually by Bodo Glimt. He was purchased in January of 2020 for only 65,000 euros. He signed for Roma earlier this year in January, and he signed for free, actually, funny enough. I tried to figure out some of the context, why the contract was broken. I couldn't get much information about it, but it was just very interesting. Roma signed him for nothing. So, and I already mentioned to you guys, he's a Norwegian national, so he does play for his national team. And as far as his profile, the player profile on the ball, oddly, he's pretty quick. Got some pace. I didn't expect it for his size. I expect him to be a little bit slower, but he's pretty quick. A little bit of amount of flair. Loves himself a step over, guys. Um, he does prefer to cut in with his left foot, especially if he's on the right side. Does make the most of his opportunities when he is on the left. So you won't see him shy away just because it's his off foot. He'll cut in on the right side, no problem. And when he's up the middle, has no problem making runs up the middle, getting a little physical. So, um, very interesting, very versatile player. And it's very interesting. I don't think I've seen somebody that we've had being able to play on the wing that will do as many step overs as this guy does, not since Kevin Miralas. So, it's a very interesting player, very exciting player in that respect. He plays a lot as an inside winger, something I want to make note of for you guys, and does not necessarily always stretch the field. And this will be important as we discuss and we do our comparisons going down in the deep dive. Now, small disclaimer before we get started with the data. He did arrive in Rome, as I mentioned, in the winter of this past season. He played about 900 minutes total for Roma. So, we like to hit that 1,000-minute mark. And when he played for Roma, he actually played primarily during a very difficult period for their club. Reason being, Roma suffered a whole bunch of injuries in the second half of the season. Their core was at one point completely decimated. They had injuries to Dybala, Lorenzo Pellegrini, uh, Smalling, their best center back, Tammy Abraham, star striker, and at the time, Gini Wijnaldum. They had injuries to the core and some of the best players on their team. and he was called in to do something, but then, he's playing with support staff. He's not playing with the primary guys. So, with a lot of pieces missing from that Roma team, he found himself in a pretty chaotic situation that Roma somehow steered to a Europa League final. So, just some context for you guys as we go into the data regarding Ola Solbakken. So, let's get started. Let's get a look at his top down look compared to everybody else in Italy. Again, we know that the data sample is not the largest. It's not where you want it, but at least we can see what he did with the time that we had. Looking at his goal creation, bottom section there is where you're going to see goals, assists, goal contributions, expected goal contributions. Starting with his goals, almost everything came entirely from open play, if it wasn't from a penalty, because he did take penalties at least when he was at Bodo. At Roma, his only goal that he scored came from a nice run behind the defender, played on, and he scored with his left foot. At Bodo, he would have goals from cutting in from the right, and he would either cut in on a defender and take a shot or play a quick 1-2 pass combination off of his teammate, take a shot after that. He had goals on the left side. A lot of them were either rebounds or overhit crosses, types of balls that in here in the United States we kind of say are for the garbage man. So in whether it's a set piece or whether you have a run of play, you usually have somebody in a lot of cases that would sit a little bit further out just in case a ball was overhit or deflected so that somebody can get an opportunity. And that's where he saw a lot of these opportunities. As for his other shot opportunities, I never really saw him take a lot of shots from distance. The furthest out was really right at the edge of the 18 or the penalty box. So if he gets to the tip, he'll rip a shot. Otherwise, he'll probably play it off. Um, he did the same thing in Norway, albeit on the left side instead of on the right side. Pretty physical when he's inside the penalty area. He uses his size and his muscle to kind of give him some space and work a shot around if he can create that space. Overall, at Roma, he wasn't the largest goal threat, and again, you can see that in the data here. Um, he, I, d- the context for success in Italy is a little bit more difficult. The defenses are, in my opinion, better in the Italian league, so maybe the transition wasn't as smooth. But I expect him to have a lot more goal threat in Greece. I expect, him to be able to do a lot more against even these park buses in Greece. And now his assists came in so many different contexts. I mean, whether he was running at a defender, taking a few step overs, cutting inside, playing a quick ball across. He had some decent crosses as well, created danger, created some goals. Once in a while, he would even have this lovely through ball, 20 meters, 30-meter through ball that would just cut the defensive line. Um, Saw a couple of those, and they were quite lovely. And you can see if you take a quick look up in the build-up section, the smart passes, those cutting balls. For the time he played, 85th percentile in terms of volume compared to everybody else in Serie A. So that does speak a little bit to his vision, even though he's a winger. Um, Seems solid in 1-2 touch build-up. He's in the final third, that is. So you see a lot of these pass combinations occur when he's getting more in those more advanced positions. It really feels like he's tailor-made for Diego Martinez's system. We've already been seeing early on in the season the pass and move, completely different than what we've had last year. So, from what I see in the tape, I mean, he should fit right into the system pretty well. He can take set pieces, so he has opportunity creation from there. This adds yet another set piece taker to the squad. Not unusual to see him cut the ball inside either to wait for overlapping runs from his midfielders or to give them space. Important thing that I want you guys to focus on here is the volume of key balls. Look at the key passes. Look at his expected assists. Just look at this volume for the time played. In Serie A, I mean, 90th percentile, above 90, almost 100th percentile on a couple of these. So this guy is going to create opportunities for us in Greece. I mean, it's there's no way he doesn't. He did it at Roma. He did the same thing at the same volume amounts in Bodo, and there's no reason why this can't be replicated in Greece. So moving on to his passing and buildup, unless he's on a counter or involved in the counter, he's not going to be too involved in buildup. This is in a similar vein to Yoros Masuras. He'll be an outlet for possession going into the final third, but you're not going to see him, you know, playing the ball to get into the final third. He'll be carrying it in, maybe the occasional pass combination, but he'll be making these runs up the field to be receiving the ball. His positioning in offensive motion is really to sit kind of wide, no matter which side he's on to receive the ball and go inward. He'll make those runs kind of inwards. He's not always going to just sit out wide. But depending on the flow of play, he'll make these runs like up the middle as if he were a striker, even though he's not playing as a striker. So he does that a lot. Um, you'll see these inside runs as a winger come, especially if the ball's on the opposite side of the field. That's where you're going to see the most of those. Otherwise, you kind of see him kind of straddle that and try to keep his space. Pass accuracy was solid at Bodo. I know you're looking at this and thinking, "Oh my goodness, 70 low 70s. It's really bad in Italy." He was a lot more accurate when he was at Bodo. It was well below average at Roma. Definitely saw a disconnect uh, in this aspect. 'Cause I saw him misplace a lot of balls. Maybe he thought his teammates were going to be somewhere and they weren't. So perhaps there's a lack of understanding of his teammates. Um, whatever the case was, I just saw a lot of misplaced passes. Um, and that was really my only way of explaining it to myself as to why that was the case. He looks his best in buildup when his team's in possession, when he's carrying the ball forward, or connecting with his teammates in the final third of the penalty area. That's the best context for success for him. I didn't see so much him, helping build up out of the back. The best we see from him is when he's able to get into the final third and make a lot of these moves inside that final third or inside that penalty area. Defensive attributes, I think this is where maybe he didn't see as much playing time, or maybe there was some disappointment on behalf of Jose Mourinho because I did not see much tracking back, especially at Bodo. This is going to be a sticking point for Diego Martinez. He has to track back. I brought the same thing up with Ivan Brnic, that he doesn't seem to track back a lot. That's going to be a problem, no matter how talented you are. I'm sure that Mourinho required this, and maybe that's the reason when I did see him track back, that was probably the reason why. It was probably pressed into him. But, Jose Mourinho's a coach that requires everybody to track back. You have to come back and play defense. So while I did see him pressing pretty well and in coordination with his teammates, I didn't see a lot of tracking back. Now, he is a big body on set pieces. Marks up pretty well, more aggressive when it comes to our defensive third, but he's still not amazing. I mean, you look at the data here. He's just overall not amazing. He's right about average when it comes to balls in the air, but he's a huge guy, so I expect that. But everything else, he's not really great closing players down. Not really a guy that's going to win the ball a lot, tracking back for interceptions, but he can press. And our offensive players, I'm not super worried as long as they are tracking back. So that's something that he will have to work on because I can't see Diego Martinez having much tolerance for somebody that will not track back. Now, let's move on to the next. You guys love these comparisons. So this time I did the comparison to Masuras again. I know I did it the comparison to Masuras when we had Brinic, but listen, I like to use Masuras, especially this summer, as a barometer of the type of winger that we are getting. Whether it's an out and out winger or an inside winger forward, Solbakken is a lot more similar to Masuras than he is to a guy like Brinic. Both of these players like to make runs in behind the defenders and get their opportunities to make shots in the penalty area. They don't really like to sit out as wide as much. Uh, Masuras's volume, as you can tell from the web, is higher in this respect. But considering the league that Solbakken plays in, Serie A, I'm not worried. I'd imagine that the volume of shots will increase rapidly, or at least much more in line with Masuras when he's in Greece. Unlike Masuras, though, Ola can take defenders on 1v1. Now, again, I brought this up before with Ivan Brinic. I don't want you to panic when you see the dribbling data. I've stopped using the percentages because some people focus on it, just see it, and then just say, "Oh my God, Masudas is so much better." No, here you get an idea. Okay, Masudas kind of edges him out here a little bit in the 1v1 dribbling capacity, but that's because Masudas' success is higher. Remember, Masuras dribbles out of pressure. He does not dribble to beat a player one on one. He dribbles to get away from them. Maybe that's laterally, maybe that's backwards. Solbakken dribbles through attackers, just like Brinic. He will make a move and dribble by them. He's not afraid to take them one on one. Masuras does not take people one on one in that respect. So remember this. Now, unfortunately, Solbakken's dribble success in Italy was pretty low. That's another reason why you see his, even though he takes on more people on 1v1, he has more dribble attempts per match because his success rate was so low. Masuras ends up with more successful dribbles per 90 minutes because he's more successful despite the fact that he does it less. So just something for you guys to bear in mind. Now, another thing Solbakken will have on Masuras is his volume of progressive carries, as well as goal contributions per 90 minutes, of course, and smart key balls. Masuras's overall volume when it comes to the amount of balls played into the penalty area or the amount of shots that he's getting, he has higher volume. We've talked about this. Masuras's volume in the penalty area inside is fantastic. But Solbakken, despite having a little bit less volume, and this is in Italy, by the way, creates overall better opportunities. And he's doing this higher quality, better opportunities, and he did that in a better league against better defenses. So bear that in mind. Now, as I mentioned previously, there we have a lot of similarities to Masuras. In the case of off-ball movement, the similarities are astonishing. Both of these guys like to make those runs behind defenders and go inside. Neither one is especially involved in buildup. They prefer to receive the ball in the final third. Salbalkin is more likely to make runs before the final third in order to assist in buildup. So, remarkable similarities in terms of their off ball movements. Now, again, considering the situation that Rome was in, I'm expecting equal production of Masuras, especially more 1v1 dribbles when he's in Greece at least. So, all things considered, I'm not sitting here telling you guys, "Oh, Masuras is better than Sobak and look at the web." No, that's not it at all. And quite frankly, I would disagree with that sentiment with anybody that actually said that. Solbakken was able to replicate um, some pretty solid success, and he's pretty close to Masuras' numbers here, and he was in a top three league. It's a lot different than saying I do that in the Greek league. So just for you guys to bear that in mind. And while we're on that topic of really assessing it, what is the verdict here? We said we needed at least one more winger. Now we got one. And this player, it's a thumbs up for me. I'm not overly thrilled that we're kind of getting another Masuras profile, or at least in this case, a Masuras that can actually carry the ball and dribble the ball one on one with people. The ball carrying ability does make me a little happier. Additionally, this player can play as a striker as well, so we're getting some versatility there, which Diego Martinez loves, and he loves to have versatile players in his toolkit. As we know, we've talked about this on the show. Um, we've already seen him make use of players in multiple positions as it is. So I have a feeling we're going to see Diego Martinez, whether he's playing with Fortunis or Masuras, flipping them, throwing him up in the striker position like he's done with Masuras. That's not going to surprise me at all. Now, regarding the risk, it's a loan with a buyout option. It makes it a very low financial risk. If the player doesn't perform well, we don't take the 4.5 million option that he's coming in. So, but honestly, if he maintains the pace of the goal contribution in his limited time that he had at Roma, that 4.5 million is going to be pennies compared to what his actual value will be. Transfer business is almost done, guys. The majority of the windows, as I mentioned before we started the scouting report, they're shutting. Olympiacos is still going to be able to make choices, but we have to have our players registered for UEFA by September 4th. So remember that just because our transfer window is extended, there's still deadlines for UEFA competition. So I hope I was able to give you guys some insight onto the player. I am excited about this player. I think he's going to fit in very well at Olympiacos. Um, as always, I do have some things that I'm concerned about. I mentioned that the profile, I was hoping we wouldn't get another Masuras profile, but this guy does have some talents that Masuras doesn't have. Not to mention he's a bigger body as well. So we'll see what happens when he gets to Olympiacos. We'll see what he can do for us. The trust the process. The rebuild is going about as well as we can hope for, and we will see you guys for the next scouting report. There's supposed to be another striker coming in. So maybe that will be the last scouting report of the season until the winter, of course. But who knows? We'll see you then. We'll see you also for the match against La Mia at the time of the recording. That's this coming Sunday. So until next time, everyone, this is Gate 7 International by the fans for the fans. And we'll see you next time.